You were the kid who helped, the one who brought band-aids to the playground, the one who rubbed their siblings' back during a fever, the one who got called mature for your age because you always knew when something was wrong and you always tried to fix it. You didn't have to be told. You just stepped in. When your mom was tired, you got quiet. When someone was crying, you sat with them. You didn't ask for much, you just wanted people to be okay. They called it empathy. They called it a gift. They said things like, "You'd make a great nurse one day." And part of you believed them. You'd watch medical dramas where someone flatlined and a nurse pushed the crash cart like they were saving the whole world. You saw how the patients looked at them, like they were more than staff, like they were hope. You thought, I could be that. Not a doctor, too cold. Not a therapist, too soft. A nurse, a doer, a responder, someone who moves toward pain instead of away from it. It started off as something beautiful, noble, purposeful. But what no one told you is this. Once people see you as the helper, they stop asking if you're okay. You get good at being needed. So good, in fact, that you forget how to be anything else. In school, you were the group project anchor, the one people leaned on. You were smart, not flashy smart, just steady smart. Consistent, the one who shows up, the one who keeps everyone calm, the one who'll stay up until 3 a.m. doing the hard part if no one else will. And when it came time to choose a career, you didn't hesitate. Nursing felt right, like the next chapter of something you were always already becoming. Even in your first semester, it clicked. You were the only one in your cohort who didn't flinch at the idea of wiping someone down or cleaning up after them. That didn't feel beneath you. It felt real. You liked giving comfort. You liked being useful. You liked the way patients looked at you when you were gentle, when you explained things in a way they could understand. You didn't know yet how heavy all that would become. That being good at this meant you'd always be asked for more. That your patience would be stretched, that your ability to stay calm would become a weapon people used against you to give you more patience, longer hours, fewer breaks. That the helper identity would grow teeth. But back then, you were still hopeful, still the one who brought coffee for your classmates before clinicals, still the one who volunteered for the more difficult shifts during training, still the one who stayed late to comfort the family that looked lost after visiting hours, still the one everyone said was meant for this. And maybe that's the hardest part. You were never forced into nursing, you chose it. Because you were the helper kid, and that's how they knew you'd never stop. You thought nursing would be enough. Enough to make a difference. Enough to feel like you mattered. Enough to build a life around. You came in ready, full of purpose. You studied the signs, memorized the ranges, practiced your IVs, passed your boards. You were one of the good ones, the ones who cared for real. And then you walked into your first real shift. No simulation, no controlled chaos. Just a full load of patients, a glitching vitals monitor, and a charge nurse too busy to explain where the crash cart was. You were barely through your orientation when someone coded. You stood there frozen, heart pounding, until someone shoved you out of the way. No judgment, just urgency. Later they told you, that's normal. Everyone freezes the first time. You went home that night with adrenaline still in your bloodstream, didn't sleep, couldn't eat. You kept replaying it, the sound of the alarms, the yelling, the look on the family's face. You started to realize, this isn't TV, this isn't clean, this is loss, wrapped in policy and procedure. Still, you kept going, because you believed you could grow into it, and in some ways, you did. You got faster, smarter, more efficient. You learned how to chart while walking, how to push meds while answering questions, how to comfort a family while your own mind was running checklists. But what you didn't expect, what nobody prepared you for, was how deeply the system didn't care. You were trained to advocate for your patients, but when you spoke up, they told you to stay in your lane. You were taught to trust your gut until your gut conflicted with the doctor's ego. You were told to take breaks, protect your peace, but when you did, they gave you side eyes and floated your patients without asking. You're working short-staffed nearly every shift. You're carrying 6, sometimes 7 patients, knowing damn well you can't give them the attention they deserve. You try to prioritize, to stay calm, but deep down, it eats at you. You didn't go to school to feel like a cog, and yet, here you are, passing meds like clockwork, cleaning up the same messes, filling in for the CNA who called out, covering for the new nurse who's drowning, taking vitals with one hand while catching someone's falling BP with the other, and still, being told you need to smile more, that you're a little too direct, that you should try to be a team player when you point out that half the machines on the floor aren't even working. You start to wonder if the thing you trained so hard to become is even allowed to exist in a place like this. You're not a nurse, you're a buffer. Between policy and pain. Between the doctors who round and the patients who cry. Between what should happen and what gets left behind. And the worst part? You still believe in the work. You still care. And that's what makes it hurt even more. You clock out, but it doesn't leave you. Your badge is off, your scrubs are in the laundry. You're halfway through your drive home, and still, you're replaying it. The missed lab. The call light you didn't get to. The patient who coded. The family that didn't get to say goodbye. You tell yourself, tomorrow is a new shift. But your body doesn't believe you. Your knees are shot. Your feet scream as you walk through your door. You've got lines on your face from the N95 and tension in your neck from pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. You haven't eaten since breakfast. You've had to pee for 4 hours. You were so dehydrated by the end of your shift that your hands were trembling during meds. But you powered through because you had to. No one else was coming. You gave a bed bath to someone who couldn't move, suctioned a trach while trying not to gag, and then helped another patient who had no family hold it together during a panic attack. You charted between bites of stale granola bars, wiped away tears in a storage closet, and still managed to smile when the manager walked by. That's the part nobody sees. They think it's shots and scrubs and stethoscopes. They don't see the dying man asking if he's going to make it. They don't see the confused patient screaming at you because they're scared and you're the closest thing to safety. They don't see the mother who collapses when you tell her it's time to come say goodbye. You have to be a rock, but not too cold. Compassionate, but not too soft. Strong enough to watch someone fade, but fast enough to prep the bed for the next admit. Efficient enough to chart everything legally, but present enough to hold a hand when it's shaking. You don't get to lose it, not in front of them, so you hold it in. You hold it in while they scream, while they code, while you pray the meds hit in time. You hold it in while you clean the body, zip the bag, and step out like it was just another room change. You make it to your car, sit behind the wheel, and then you brake. Sometimes it's crying, sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's just staring at the steering wheel, heart racing like you're still in a rapid response. You look at the clock and realize it's been 20 minutes and you haven't even turned the key. But you wipe your face, start the car, go home, try to talk like it was just a long shift. Try to sleep like the beeping didn't follow you. Try to rest when you know you're back at it again in less than 12 hours. And that's the truth they never teach in school. Your shift never really ends. Not when it lives in your muscles, not when it's stitched into your memory, not when it becomes who you are. You start losing people before you even notice, not patients. People outside the hospital, the ones waiting for you to come home, the ones who used to text you at lunch and now don't bother, the ones who say they understand, but don't. You miss birthdays, you miss dinners, you miss date nights and movie nights and entire weekends because you picked up an extra shift or got mandated again. You say, next time more than you show up. Eventually they stop inviting you. You try to explain, but it never comes out right. How do you describe what it feels like to give everything to people who are bleeding, shaking, slipping away, and then sit across from someone asking why you didn't text back? How do you talk about a mother sobbing into your shoulder at 11:30 p.m. when your partner just wants to know why you're so quiet lately? They say, just leave it at work. You can't. Not when your hands still smell like antiseptic. Not when your brain replays the code that didn't go well. Not when you look at your own kids and think of the little boy you admitted last week who didn't make it. Not when your whole body aches from holding other people's pain and nobody's holding yours. You try to date. At first, you pretend you're just tired. But eventually, they start noticing the emotional armor. The way you go numb when they cry. The way you dodge any topic that makes you feel something real. The way you don't let yourself be vulnerable because you can't afford to be. You forget how to be soft. The job hardens you, piece by piece. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. You used to come home and vent. Now you just say, it was a lot. You used to want a hug. Now it feels like another thing to manage. You used to look forward to rest days. Now you spend them in silence, trying to feel like a person again. Sometimes you wonder if this is why so many nurses date other nurses, because only they get it. Only they know what it means to be fully present for strangers and completely absent from the people you love. It's not that you don't care, it's that there's nothing left to give. And love, real, patient, tender love, doesn't understand that. You wake up tired, not just physically, in your bones, in your mind. You roll out of bed and your feet hit the floor already sore, like they remember the steps before they happen. You stretch, you sigh, you check your schedule. Another shift, you don't want to go, but you go. You go because there's a patient who only trusts you, because the night nurse left a note asking for your help, because you know someone will crash today, and someone has to know what to do when they do. You go because you're good at this, even if it doesn't feel like it anymore. You walk in, clock in, smile at the front desk even though your face doesn't want to. You check the assignment board and brace yourself. Full load. Short-staffed. Again. You exhale. Then you move. Vitals. Meds. Blood draws. Wound dressings. Paperwork. Family updates. Death discharge. New admit. Repeat. You do the impossible like it's routine. No one sees the moments in between. The time you stood behind the curtain and talked a patient through a panic attack. The time you pulled the chair closer for a daughter to say goodbye to her father. The time you held a hand longer than you had time for just because they looked scared. And at the end of the shift, nobody claps. There's no thank you banner, no camera crew, just aching feet, full bladder, and another chart left unfinished. But somewhere in the blur of it all, someone remembers you. The old woman who said, "Thank you for treating me like I matter." The new grad who said, "I want to be like you." The patient who whispered, "You made me feel safe." That's why you keep coming back. Not because the system is fair. Not because the job is easy. Not because the world sees you. But because you do. Because you remember the girl who used to play nurse with dolls. Because you remember the college version of yourself who swore you'd always care. Because when everyone else turns away from pain, you go toward it. Because no one else sees the moment a patient realizes they're not alone. But you do. You live for that shift, that moment, that thank you whispered with shaky hands. You've thought about quitting. You've looked at jobs outside of healthcare. But none of them feel real. None of them feel like this, like purpose, like truth. Like war? Yes. But war you believe in. You still show up. Because you're a nurse. And that's why it sucks to be one.